Hi everyone. So today is going to be a multiple upload day, just because, we're near a night of some pretty big drama, as an election night, if you don't know what it means. And I've also these ideas have been kind of in the backlog. Like I've been getting the motivation to make them, and then losing it, and then etc. So this is kind of like a pent up release of videos. So. So today, with election night, tomorrow, I'm gonna decide, statistics is a very weird phenomenon, and often there can, technically within the realm of possibility, is a lot of things that you just think are completely nonsensical. But they very much could happen. So today I'm gonna be covering the most, just nonsensical, cursed, if you would say, according to Politics Made Simple, um, election scenarios that are actually within the realm of possibility. So let's get started. I'm going to also do geographically this time. So first we have red Washington and blue Oregon. And this is I'm okay. I have to clarify. This is about the midterms. This is not about the presidential year, even though I'm using a presidential map. I know, but yeah, as I said before, the Senate race in Washington is competitive, but more likely is going to be, it's not that competitive though. It's probably going to be a Democrat win, even if although by narrow margin. Whereas Oregon, the governorship, it could be neck and neck, and actually the Republicans leading in the polls narrowly. So what would happen if Oregon, the governorship, stayed blue, and meanwhile Washington, the Senate race, flipped red, and Tiffany Smiley won and was their 55th Senate seat or whatever? or yeah, or what about? She might not even be their 55th. It might just be. Speaking of more cursed scenarios, sorry, excuse me. What if Republicans lost? What if they lost Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, New Hampshire, but then they won Washington, on a Senate level, just this, and Ohio, and North Carolina, and Florida, not Minnesota, and then won Washington. Yeah, that would be so cursed. But yeah, that would be like the mother of all curses. So what about blue Nevada, red Arizona on the Senate level? That's actually remotely possible, but that's very possible in the cycle. There could be a polling error that underestimates Democrats in Nevada that overestimates Democrats in Arizona. But more likely it's going to be red Nevada, blue Arizona, or both red, or both blue. Yeah, I doubt it would be like this, but oh well. This is probably one of the more likely scenarios. Moving on, how about red New Mexico governorship, blue Arizona governorship? Let's say Katie Hobbs, one of the most incompetent campaigners ever, who just does absolutely nothing, loses. Wins in Arizona and defeats Kari Lake. Meanwhile, Mark Ronchetti pulls off an upset in New Mexico. So this is a lot more far fetched. Obviously. So what about red New Mexico? No. How about blue New Mexico? No. Red Colorado. I mean, what's the deal with I don't know which one I was supposed to compare that to, but what about red Colorado? That Senate race is pretty not likely to go red, but what if red Colorado and blue Arizona governorship? Or Senate race. Or governor. Yeah, blue Arizona governorship, red Colorado Senate race. Yeah, pretty nonsensical there. Oh, what about red New Mexico governorship, blue Texas governorship? Let's say Beta O'Rourke, Beta O'Cuck, just pulls it off in Texas and defeats Greg Abbott, who's like very popular. Yeah. What else? Oklahoma. How about you could see red Kansas, blue Oklahoma. Yeah. Kansas is more of a toss-up, but like if Kansas went red, Oklahoma probably would go red. But imagine if Oklahoma actually, if Hoffmeister pulled off an upset in Oklahoma and flipped it blue, while Kansas flipped red. Yeah. Where else? Red Minnesota, blue Wisconsin. Yeah, so Tim, the Democrat Tim Walz is probably going to win the governor race by a very small margin, but a lot more likely than not. Meanwhile, the Republicans probably going to win. It was more likely to win Wisconsin than the Democrat Tony Evers. It's more of a toss-up in the governor's race. But yeah, just imagine if Wisconsin stayed blue and then Minnesota flipped red. Upset Minnesota. And also, meanwhile, red Michigan, blue Wisconsin. Now, I think Michigan is going to be red in the governorship level this cycle. I think Tudor Dixon's going to pull it off, and RCP agrees because it's taking in mind historic polling errors. And they're projecting Tudor Dixon win. But imagine if Tudor Dixon won and then Tony Evers kept his governorship in Wisconsin. And also another neighbor, blue Wisconsin, red Illinois. Super unlikely. Illinois, Darren Bailey's kind of not a really just a bad candidate. I didn't really like Richard Irvin personally, but we should have nominated him if we had any chance to win, or at least like Jesse Sullivan or something, who was more of a Youngkin type person. And I voted for Sullivan in the primary just to have a middle ground. But yeah, imagine if Republicans pull off an upset in Illinois. Either in both the Senate race, maybe Kathy Salvi pulls off an upset, or Darren Bailey in the governor's race pulls off an upset. But meanwhile, Tony Evers keeps his job, and Mandela Barnes wins in Wisconsin. And also red Michigan, blue Ohio. Imagine if Tudor Dixon pulled it off up there, but then J.D. Vance lost in Ohio. Pretty cursed, right? Blue Ohio. What else? We're going to go down. I'm not going to touch the Northeast yet. What about red Georgia, blue Florida? Now, Georgia could go either way. It's probably going to go red at this point. But imagine if, Herschel Walker won the Senate race in Georgia, but then Marco Rubio and Ron DeSantis lost in Florida. Yeah, pretty wild. And also red Georgia, blue North Carolina. North Carolina is a very likely Republican race at this point. For Ted Budd's going to beat Cherry Beasley or whatever her name is. But yeah, imagine if Democrats pull off an upset in North Carolina while Herschel Walker still wins in Georgia. Yeah, not what you would expect, right? Go up to the Northeast. I'm going to save the best for last. So first, red Maine, blue New Hampshire. Now, New Hampshire could go either way. But if New Hampshire is blue, I really doubt Maine would be red. But what if Paul LePage pulled it off in Maine, if the governorship, but then in New Hampshire, Maskey Hassan holds on. Yeah. What else? Blue New Hampshire, red Rhode Island. Imagine if Democrat Dan McKee or whatever his name held on to his governorship in Rhode Island, while Maggie Hassan kept her seat in New Hampshire. Cursed as fuck. And finally, this is actually one of. I'm going to end on the best one. This is actually one of the more, as nonsensical as it looks. This is actually like probably like this one of the most likely ones. Like first, either the most likely or the second most likely. The scenarios. Red New York, blue Pennsylvania. I'm talking about on a governor's level. And Lee Zeldin in New York, the only candidate I've ever endorsed on my channel, he's actually more likely to win the governorship, believe it or not, than Doug Mastriano is to win the governorship in Pennsylvania. And it's probably because Doug Mastriano is, he's been painted as like extreme and like a Nazi or whatever, but more, I mean, that's not moreover, it's like that he's not pro-worker. You really need to be pro-worker to win in the Rust Belt. If you're not pro-worker, you're just kind of a jagoff at this point. Trump won the Rust Belt because he was pro-union, and Doug Mastriano. This is why the police union didn't endorse Mastriano. They endorsed Oz, but they didn't endorse him because Oz was pro-union and he was not. So yeah, believe it or not, I think this is a lot more likely than the other way around. I think red New York, blue Pennsylvania. That very much. I think that's very likely. A lot more, at least a lot more so than red Pennsylvania, blue New York this cycle. But yeah, imagine. But I mean, I guess the more cursed one would be, imagine if Zeldin pulled off the upset of a century in New York, but then Oz lost in Pennsylvania on the Senate seat. Yeah. So that would be like a great night for Republicans in like the governorships, and it would be an awful night for Republicans in the Senate. if Oz is losing, he was one of the least bad candidates they had this cycle. But these are the most cursed election scenarios. Imagine if the electoral map looked anything like this. You'd say I was insane. And I don't think any of this is gonna. I think maybe I think red New York, blue Pennsylvania. I think that's very possible. That's the only one I actually see happening. But the rest of these, no. Yes, if I were actually predict this, if this were an official prediction, you'd say it was insane. It's great, and I'd say it was insane. So yeah, hope you found that informative, and just sort of, I wanted to stretch your mind, keep in mind with the what the fuck nature of my channel, just give you an example of what is possible in the realm of statistics. And yeah, if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe below, and I'll see you tomorrow for a night of juicy drama.